N'Keal Harry was an absolute steal at 32. What are you guys talking about? Forget Tom Brady's passing numbers. He's the GOAT because he was the best punter in the NFL. I take Johnny Hekker over Patrick Mahomes to be my quarterback any day.
Welcome to the No Punt Intended Sportscast with your host, Parody07.
Welcome back to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. I'm your host, Guy, and I'm here with, as always, the DAWGS. Thank you for letting us have a week off to enjoy Thanksgiving, even though none of our viewers had a choice in the matter, but at the very least, thank you for allowing it and still watching the Chargers episode, which we teased for like 3 months and then finally posted. So,
well, yeah, it's very interesting to see that video after, so much time has passed and see if our predictions or thoughts about the Chargers were right or wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't want to brag. But I think I might have been the most correct.
To be fair, I believe they're 4-7 right now, or something along those lines. I predicted they would be 10-7, so it is all of our predictions.
Possible.
All our predictions are still in play, and the Chargers have a get right game this week against the Patriots. So I don't think anybody's going to be hyping up the J.C. Jackson revenge game. Let me tell you that right now. But it has been 2 weeks since we've recorded. Thanksgiving has happened, and I have to say that was probably the worst Thanksgiving of football I've ever experienced. I mean,
well, what about Black Friday of football?
I was out fishing.
Jets versus Dolphins.
It did good for my fantasy. That's about all it did. My fantasy matchups that I had that day went well. Otherwise, it was kind of a dud of a football weekend outside of college ball. College ball was pretty good, but regardless, we're here now. We're coming on week 12, if I'm not mistaken, or week 13. I might be bugging.
I think it's 13.
It might be 13.
Well, wait, no, it's 12.
Yeah, it's going.
Sorry, I think so. Well. Yeah, no, it's 12. It's 13. You're right. Sorry. Yeah,
12 going on 13.
Okay.
The bye weeks confuse me now.
Yeah, the bye weeks confused everybody. I think the bye week, all it does is give those guys a break like we got last week.
Yeah, so, we had our own bye week.
Yeah, for sure. And we all took L's. So we'll get into the predictions a little bit later and how the guys did. Let's get into not the good, the bad, and the coaching, but more of like a review of the past couple weeks and what's going on with our respective franchises. For those who have forgotten or who are new with us, LB is our resident Panthers fan. I'm your resident Patriots fan. And Hound is the resident bandwagoner because he fell in love with Taylor Swift. So, but in all seriousness, he's a Chiefs fan, a true Chiefs fan. He's not like these Miami faithful that were only Miami faithful when Mike McDaniel got hired, But we'll start with LB because I think you have the most pressing news, and we usually start with you anyways. So, give us a quick not necessarily quick, but just give us an update on the state of the Panthers. Last I checked, that one win has not changed. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, you are. So the last time we talked, I think we just got through covering that Thursday night game that the Panthers played at Chicago, where Tyson Bagent played and beat them 16-13. The Panthers followed that up with a big loss to Dallas, where they got beat 33-10. Which, I could get into some nuances and details of the game, but to be quite honest, it's not really worth it. I mean, the score speaks for itself. It's the same issues. Offense couldn't get anything going. Defense was put in bad positions by the offense, etc. And then this past week, on November 26th, week 12. The Titans beat the Panthers 17-10, and I had predicted the Panthers would lose 16-10. So that was a silver lining, being 1 point off of my prediction. That was a very, very, very ugly game. And that game ultimately led, or I guess you could say was the straw that broke the camel's back in getting Frank Reich fired. The Panthers head coach was canned. I'm surprised that it happened in week 12, going 1-10. I thought at this point, for Bryce's sake, they may have just keep the coaching staff consistent. That way there wouldn't be another turnover in terms of play calling and locker room makeup in terms of, coaches and things like that. Because Frank Reich started the season calling the plays, then he switched it over to Thomas Brown calling the plays. Once that went absolutely nowhere and arguably even worse, Frank Reich resumed play calling to then be fired. So I just thought that, I'm not surprised based on the record being 1-10 that they would fire him. I thought that was going to come after this season, but you never know. I mean, I don't think he was a long-term solution. I don't think he was the answer right away. I mean, I was optimistic and I was excited for the possibility of what it could have been bringing Frank Reich in to town. He was our first offensive-minded head coach in franchise history. So I was excited about that, being an offensive-minded guy, and definitely favor the offense. But there's basically been zero offense this whole year. The most amount of points we scored this year was week 3 at Seattle, where we scored 27 points. And Bryce Young didn't even play that game. He was out. Andy Dalton, the backup, played his off, really, excuse me. But, I mean, you can beat that out. Sorry, buddy.
No, you're good.
But, yeah, he played well and just got things going for us. And since then, it's been the same story every week. So Frank Reich got fired. There's been some funny articles locally down here in Charlotte. I'll just read one headline right quick. This is from the Charlotte Observer. It says, quote, Panthers owner David Tepper fired another head coach. He should have fired himself instead.
Yeah.
So that was very accurate. On that same subject, David Tepper also owns the Charlotte FC soccer team for the MLS, and they have already gone through 2 head coaches in his tenure as owner, and I believe that team came into being like 2 years ago. It's the most recent soccer team in the MLS, if I'm not mistaken. So there's definitely some consistency and a common theme with coaching issues and David Tepper's ownership. I argue that David Tepper's the issue, along with our GM. So I will be on the lookout for the GM to get fired next. That'll probably be this offseason. Firing a GM this late in the season, I don't think does you any good, especially because of the NFL rules in terms of when you can contact and start the hiring process with other NFL teams. I know with the coaching situation, Carolina will not be able to conduct interviews until after the divisional round of the playoffs. So got a while. I saw a funny tweet, and it was, the Panthers just need some time to be single. So that made me laugh. It's just, it's a dumpster fire, man. And like, I've sent y'all this screenshot through text, but it was the graphic of the highest win percentages since 2019 across the 4 professional leagues, that being the NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. Think of all those teams across those 4 leagues, and the Carolina Panthers rank dead last at a 303 out of 1,000. So for percentage-wise, 0.303 win percentage. So they're winning 1 out of 3 games over the last 6 years. It's 2019, so coming up on 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that in jest a couple times through text, or maybe even on the pod, that the Carolina Panthers are literally the worst franchise in sports. I think that would back up my claim fairly well, which is not something I want to be right on. Let me tell you, I wish I was dead wrong.
Right.
But, that's the way it is, man. So the biggest news coming out of Carolina is definitely the head coach situation. The Panthers have gone with Chris Tabor, who was a special teams coach, as the interim head coach, and Thomas Brown will be taking over play calling.
Again.
So I would imagine, again. So I would imagine we're going to see the same thing on offense, basically it not existing. I'd be surprised if we put up more than 17 points the rest of the season. I really would be. So it's just frustrating, man, because I don't know, like every situation is different, obviously, but when you see the moves that are made in the offseason compounded with the moves that were made in previous years, and then you go and make this big investment in a quarterback for him to have zero help offensively is just so frustrating. Because if this pick doesn't work out based on the moves made to go get him at number one, the Panthers are looking at another, 3, 4, 5 years potentially of this level of poor play based on the state of their franchise in terms of what leverage they have, what assets they have, things of that nature. Because the offensive line is riddled with injuries, so we can't even protect the guy. And he's not a big dude to begin with. They have him listed at like 5'10", 200 pounds. But, I would peg that guy at 185 all day.
Absolutely.
And that is not big to be playing in the NFL for a quarterback. So that's really the biggest concern I have going forward is let's just get out of the season healthy. Let's keep these core guys, what few of them we have, together. Keep Evero as our DC, because our defense, despite a 1-10 record, has not been playing horribly. They just don't have the help. So I think at this point, like, if David Tepper and the front office has any sort of philosophy going forward, I would think it would be damage control. And let's try to limit the damage that's already been done. We're 1-10. We're not making the playoffs. Although I guess technically, statistically speaking, they still could, based on the lack of division games they've played. They still have 5 division games left. So if they went out in the division games, I think technically they could still make the playoffs, which is wild, but that's not going to happen. So I think technically they could go 7-10, be first in the division, and host a playoff game. Which, if that happened, would be the most Panthers thing to do of all time. Start 1-10, make the playoffs, and host the playoff game. That would be wild. But no, that's all I've got, guys. It's a sad state of affairs. But it makes for good content in terms of things to talk about, because there's no shortage of things to talk about and how bad the Panthers are.
Fair enough. And at the very least, you guys should win a few games so that the Bears no longer have the number 1 pick, so New England can have it. I mean, that's what I'm shooting for.
Yeah, seriously, because at this point, obviously I want them to win, because it's not like we're vying for that number 1 pick, because we traded it to Chicago. So yeah, let's string some wins together. Let's go win every single game left, ideally, because we're not hurting ourselves by doing so.
Right.
If we were in contention for the number 1 pick at this point, no, you should tank for the future benefit of the team. We don't have that possibility. So yeah, let's just go win, and in the process, if we can help the Patriots and screw the Bears, that's fine with me.
I hear you. We're back to hating on the Bears again. We
yeah, we are.
We have bifurcated our love of Tyson Bagent from our hate of the Bears. So we're right where we need to be. From one end of the spectrum in a bottom tier team in the NFL, let's go to the upper echelon, the elite, the proletariat of the NFL. In the Kansas City Chiefs. You go from the Queen City to the king himself, Patrick Mahomes, and the Prince Charming of the NFL in Travis Kelce.
Yeah, no, so we've had an interesting 2 weeks, because we started with the Eagles and we lost that game, which I predicted. But I will admit that I got that right for the wrong reasons. I think. Because my theory was the Chiefs was going to lose to the Eagles because the Eagles were going to want to win that game more. They were just going to play tougher. They, because we beat them in the Super Bowl, they're just going to be more motivated. And that might be true for their head coach, Nick Sirianni, perhaps the most annoying head coach in the league.
Oh,
but that's
wow.
neither here nor there. By far. Did you not hear what he did?
No.
So before, press conferences going into the game, he did the normal coach thing. Because people were like, oh, this is the team that beat you in the Super Bowl. Does that mean anything to you? Does this make this game any more different? And he was like, no, it's no different, whatever, right? Normal coach thing. After the game, there is video. You'll have to look it up. I don't have it on me, obviously. But he runs off the field and he yells at Chiefs fans, because this is played at Arrowhead. It's like, you like that, huh? And then he runs, when he enters the tunnel, right? What did he say? He basically said something to the effect of, who's talking now, Chiefs fans?
Oh my gosh.
To that effect. There's a little bit, but it's like, but what's funny is he said that when he was in the tunnel, not in front of Chiefs fans. So it's like, okay.
So it echoed.
But it's like, so apparently that game did mean something to you, Nick Sirianni. So yeah, I'm not a big Nick Sirianni fan. It's very easy to have a successful team that still hasn't won a Super Bowl since you've been the head coach, when you've got probably the most talented roster in the league, except for maybe the 49ers. And the only reason you were in a Super Bowl is because they had no quarterback in the NFC conference game, but whatever.
That's neither here nor there, right?
That's neither here nor there. Yeah. Anyways, so we lost to the Eagles, but again, it wasn't because I thought the Eagles played with a lot of motivations. The Chiefs lost because of the Chiefs. Who's heard that one before? And more specifically, the Chiefs lost because of two things: turnovers and the wide receivers. Who's heard that before?
I have.
So, yeah, we had 2 turnovers in that game. A lot better than the 5 we had against the Broncos. But both of those turnovers were in the red zone or in the end zone. And then the wide receivers in that game was awful. So I'm just going to tell you, Kelsey was like a non-factor in that game for the majority of that game, right? Not very many yards, whatever. I think he caught a touchdown pass. Good for him. But the other guys. So Justin Watson is a wide receiver. I don't think he was drafted, but he's been kind of a part of our game recently. He's, he gets usually about 3 catches a game. He's usually a deeper threat guy, more or less. He had 11 targets in this game. And you know how many catches he had?
2.
5.
Oh my gosh.
He had 5 catches on 11 targets, and 3 of those were 100% drops.
Goodness me.
Like ones that actually hit his hands. Now, there may be other ones that I forgot about, but he had 3 confirmed drops, I believe, in this game.
Jeez.
But 5 catches on 11 targets is insane. And also, why are we throwing him the ball 11 times? He also, on our last play of the game on the Chiefs offense, when we were trying to get a score, the ball goes right through his hands and we turn over on downs. And if he had caught that, it would have been a first down.
Jeez.
So not happy with him. Now, what about one of our other wide receivers? MVS, Marquez Stantling, whatever. I can't even pronounce his name. It's too late. MVS. I'm so frustrated. Yeah, Mel, I mean, the world would be much better if we didn't remember who he was, because Mahomes threw around like a 60 or 50 yard pass to MVS with 30 seconds left in the game into the end zone. And it hits him in the hands. And you know what he decides to do with the ball? Not grab it. No. Not, take each of his 10 God-given fingers and grip the football. No, that doesn't make sense. He decides to move his 2-hand mittens into the football and make the football hit his helmet and drop it.
Oh, man.
And if he had caught that, we would have had a touchdown because it was in the end zone.
Wide.
And there was around 30 seconds left.
Wide.
So, yes. So, not good. Again, if Justin Watson caught any of the drops he had, we probably would have won this game. And if MVS had caught that one pass, we probably would have won this game. And if we didn't have either of our turnovers in the game, which both happened, I believe, within the 10-yard line, we probably would have won this game. We're down by 4 points by the end. So, anyways, that's all to say. The Eagles game was the reason why the Chiefs have had frustrating games this year.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example.
Right.
And again, I think our defense did fine. We allowed 21 points. That's great against the Eagles. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's great. There was pretty much. And you know what's crazy? We had more offensive yards in that game than the Eagles. We had 336 offensive yards. The Eagles only had 238 offensive yards.
It's a 100-yard difference. What?
100 yards difference, and we won time of possession. So, like, again, by any metric, we should have won that game. It was simply because of drops and turnovers. Anyways, with all that being said, next week was a lot better. We played the Raiders, who have actually been doing a little bit better than normal because ever since they fired McDaniels, their defense has started playing pretty good.
Mm.
I forgot the exact statistic, but they were saying for like the last 4 weeks or so, they're actually the number one team in scoring on defense.
Mm.
Anyways, we won this game 31-17, and it was a good game. This was actually, I would say, the first game where our offense looked more or less like our old offense. More or less. We've had good games throughout this season of offense, like against the Bears, but this was one game where it's like, this looks like it could work. Like, if we stuck to this game plan, it would work. Mahomes had nearly 300 passing yards. Pacheco had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
So the offense was doing really good, right? Offense was doing great. But I was just complaining about the wide receivers. So did they do good? Well, that's interesting. Well, Travis Kelce had a better game. He had 91 receiving yards. So not bad. Now, what about, but what is interesting is going into this game, Mecole Hardman was injured and Jerick McKinnon was injured, and they were both out. So we had less receiving weapons in this game than the Eagles game. So why did we do better? Well, it's the Raiders. But also let's look at the statistics, right? Okay, Justin Watson, the guy who dropped every pass he had. How did he do this? How did he do in this game? Well, he had 1 catch for 3 yards on 3 targets, so he still managed to, not catch footballs. And what about MVS? He couldn't always be bad. Well, he had 1 catch for -1 yards. So neither of those guys, just like the Eagles games, contributed anything to this win. The reason why we won is because of one guy, Rashee Rice, our rookie wide receiver. He had 8 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown. It's the first time we've had a wide receiver actually break 100 yards this season, and he looked great. And that's with less weapons on the field, and that was with only Travis Kelce contributing some to this. No other wide receiver or offensive player had more than 34 receiving yards besides Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce.
Yikes.
So, I think this is a sign. This is a sign to the Chiefs front office, and especially Andy Reid and the glorious Matt Nagy, that Rice is the future star wide receiver of this team because there is no other competent wide receiver on this team. He can run with the football. He can usually catch the football. So let's, instead of throwing 11 times to Justin Watson or throwing negative yards to MVS, let's just keep throwing the football to Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce and run the football with Isaiah Pacheco, and maybe our offense can score, 31 points like we did against the Raiders. So, good game. Our offense did good. We had 0 turnovers, another big plus.
Mm-hmm.
And another player that deserves a shout out is Harrison Butker, our kicker. He is still perfect on the season on field goal attempts and extra points. He's 20 for 20 on field goals and 28 for 28 on extra points. So I'm invested in his future because I want to see him have a perfect season.
He was a former Carolina Panthers draft pick. That's
true. You guys didn't you guys not?
I'm pretty sure we drafted him in the 3rd round. I'm looking that up right now.
Oh, you guys had him, but then you guys immediately cut him in the offseason preseason because you guys decided to stick with, I think, Gano. So I don't even think he started for you guys. So, anyways.
I mean, that's tough because Grant Gano was a good kicker too. So
yeah, he was good.
So that's tough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, at least Harrison Butker is in his prime on a team that his prime would matter on. I mean, imagine him in his prime not being able to kick at all because the offense can't get past the 50-yard line. So
yeah, his long for the season is 60 yards.
Goodness.
So we'll see.
I mean, I'd like to hit an extra point field, length field goal, but yeah. I guess that's a little too much to ask for double-digit scoring on offense. Like, I think that's I'm starting to think that is a little too much to ask. So I crossed it off the Christmas list.
Yeah, don't be greedy.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of being greedy, though, I do want to point out, I know you're a bit of a stats guy, Hound, but I thought you did because this was interesting. Prior to the Raiders game, the Chiefs had not scored a single point in the second half in the previous 3 games.
That's true.
And that was the difference and that included losses to the Eagles and to the Broncos. So that kind of gives you an idea that just lulls happen. But if you guys can kind of get back on track over the next month and a half or so, you guys will be looking pretty strong come playoff time. But
yeah,
you got to keep the train on the rails.
Yep.
So as far as New England goes, we had a bye the 1 week, so that didn't affect my outlook on life, except I didn't have to deal with the stress and depression of losing another game. But all it was delaying the inevitable. All the clips during the New England Giants game of Randy Moss catching what was supposed to be the game-winning touchdown, and then the helmet catch that happened, and then Mario Manningham happened, and then the touchdown that the Giants didn't try to score because they wanted to run out the clock that New England pushed him in, and then Michael Strahan clowning on Gronk not having a good game in the 2011 Super Bowl when Gronk had literally half a leg. So, I mean, just kick a man while he's down, why don't you? But
yeah.
If I'm just going to say, I've already done the spiel on Mac being broken and that it's not his fault that it's not his fault that he's broken. It's the fact that he's had 5 offensive coordinators in 3 years, and 3 of those offensive coordinators are defensive or special teams minded coaches. In the drafts and all the rest, fine. Like it's all kaput. It's in the past. It is what it is. But what should New England do going forward? They benched Mac after the first half, which I think was the right thing to do instead of, waiting till the last drive of the game to do it. But everybody that's a Zappy fan, Zappy Fever has once again reared its ugly head. And let me tell you, he sucks too. It's not that Mac is bad and Zappy's the savior. It's that they're both bad.
It's very funny seeing it because, what is this, the 3rd time that Max Jones has been benched in the middle of a game?
Yeah.
And each time it happens, because I don't watch the games, I usually can't even get access to the games where I'm at.
Right.
But it's always funny looking at the box office because the stats are almost identical.
Yeah.
Considering playtime.
Right.
It's Mac Jones will have 2 interceptions and like 50 yards, and Bailey Zappi gets put in late in the game will have 25 yards and an interception. It's like really funny.
Yeah.
It's like there's no difference, hardly at all.
Well, the Zappy Fever people are going to ooh and ah and point at the one lone touchdown drive that we had in the entire game. Say, see, this is what he could do for you. This is what he could do for you. I am here to tell you.
You know what? You're convincing me.
Here, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. You know who could have completed those passes? And I mean the day of. I'm not talking about this person in their prime. I'm talking the day of. Andrew Luck could have made those plays, thrown those 5 screen passes that got us down the field. I could have gotten
you hear it here first.
Oh, okay.
Guy says that Bailey Zappi makes the same throws that Andrew Luck could make. Hear it here first.
Here.
Cam Newton could make those throws right now, right off his. Right now, he could make those throws. RG3 could make those throws right now. Kurt Warner right now could make those throws. It's not difficult to throw
Mac
it.
Jones can't. That's the whole problem.
No, the problem is they don't call the freaking screens when he's in the game. They make him throw downfield, which is what he should do because he's supposed to be a competent NFL quarterback that's supposed to be able to throw a freaking crossing route that they don't call because freaking Demario Douglas is the entire offense. So they drink him downfield and think, you know what? You know who else we're going to throw downfield? Everybody else. The only people we're going to leave in the freaking like at all close to the quarterback as an outlet is a running back with his back to the defense. The second he turns around, he gets freaking lit up.
Sounds like Carolina.
The problem is that if Mac Jones was given screen passes, he would probably just do like throw the ball like 50 yards up in the air for like a 5-yard pass. You know, he's not very big on the bullet throws.
I think he's more.
He likes to put the old bit of a touch on it.
He is more of a touch passer compared to some of the other quarterbacks in the NFL. But his arm talent is not the issue. I can promise you that.
He's got a good enough arm for the NFL.
Absolutely. Is it? Am I saying he's a top tier NFL arm talent? No, he's not. He's definitely bottom half amongst the starters, but it's not like it's not a noodle arm, okay?
Right.
He never was. It's just that his accuracy is more in tune with timing, and he's got a good over the middle ball, and he's got a good touch pass. Like his best throw is usually a corner route to the tight end. Is usually his best throw consistently throughout his career, but he can't even get those now because Hunter Henry's on the sideline picking out freaking turf balls from his freaking contacts or whatever he adds in because, you know, otherwise we might actually complete a pass if he's in the game, you know, just that, God forbid that. But man, it's frustrating to watch because it's just so poor, and you thought that we hit rock bottom last year, and no, I venture to say we could still fall. But here's what needs to happen. Bill usually says that the first 4 weeks of the NFL season are an extension of the preseason for him so that he can make adjustments to his team and learn things about his team, this, that, and the other. Bill, the 2024 preseason starts this week at the Chargers. So put in the backups to the backups, put in the coaches on the field, put the janitors on the field, the equipment guys, put Scott Zolak and freaking Bob Sosey, who's up in the box calling the games, put them on the field and try to figure out a semblance of something that you can build on next year. That's your job. Put Tyquan Thornton on the field more, which he did last week. I don't care who's at quarterback anymore because they both suck. They got rid of Will Grier, so that dream is gone. Not that it was much of a dream to begin with, but put Malik Cunningham in at quarterback for a drive or two. Put in run some Wildcat stuff. I mean, just try a bunch of stuff. I mean, I know you don't want it like putting things on film, Bill. I get that. But it's not like any of this is going to work for you next year anyways, because you're going to have to run an entirely new offense because you're going to be running with either Drake May or Michael Penix Jr. or Jaden Daniels or who knows who will be playing quarterback for us next year. But might be freaking Taylor Heineke for all we know. Who knows? I mean, it is his job, Bill's job right now, to set us up good for next year. If he really has any sort of semblance of potentially being the head coach next year, his job is to play Zappy, play Mac, play everybody. Malik, the only thing that I don't want is trying out things on the offensive line. We found something that works as far as the best starting five. We found putting Mike Onwenu on the right tackle, Sidney So at right guard, David Andrews at center as usual. Just anybody at left guard because, gosh, we are so depleted. Even after drafting 3 interior offensive linemen this past draft. And then Trent Brown is on one leg is better than Connor McDermott with 2. It's just unbelievable where that offensive line is, but we found something that could kind of work with it. What I want to get into real quick before we move on to anything else, and I want to hurry. Let me pull out my laptop here. And I did a little experiment, gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
I was in the lab because I was expecting us to do a pod last week. So I actually came prepared. So I'm actually a week ahead prepared.
Ooh.
And so let me kind of preface this of what I did. So what I did, fellas, is I looked at what the current cap space of the New England Patriots have available next year. I looked at who the pending free agents are across the league, but especially in the New England camp. I looked at a handful of the top 50 or so potential prospects to see potential combinations of players that we could draft. I did a little bit of research to put together what could have been and what could be our offense next year. And the purpose of this exercise is to show why screwing up Matt Jones so badly is going to set us back for at least another 2 years. So what I'm going to do now is simply list off what will likely be our starting offense starting week 1, 2024 against, I don't know, the defending AFC champion Dolphins or something, who knows. But quarterback, Drake May, or equivalent, Michael Penix, whoever. But if it ended today, it'd probably be Drake May. Ramondre Stevenson at running back. Wide receiver 1 with a whopping $17 million payday in the offseason, T. Higgins, wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 2, second round pick Xavier Worthy, wide receiver. Wide receiver 3, Demario Douglas. Kendrick Bourne walks, and Parker's either not good enough to be in the top 3 or was traded away. Tight end playing on an $11 million franchise tag is Hunter Henry. Left tackle, a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. Left tackle, 3rd or 4th round draft pick. Left guard, Cole Strange, failed 1st round pick. David Andrews is center, Sidney So at right guard. A newly paid about $10 million a year, Mike Onwenu at right tackle. Probably about a C minus operation. And this is being optimistic considering we've never paid a receiver more than $12 or $13 million a year. We've paid that receiver in a single season that much, but not across, spread out across his across his contract, but I'm saying he's worth $16.5 to $17 million a year, and that's off of what Sports says that they're likely to be paid. And some people will say, "Oh, well, we got T. Higgins, a fresh, shiny new Xavier Worthy, who's known as a route runner, and Demario Douglas in the slot. You can do a lot worse than that." True. You also have a sieve. It literally looks like Swiss cheese at offensive line. And guess what? You're going to ruin another quarterback unless Bill O'Brien and Adrian Clam can either figure it out or they do what they've been doing when Bailey Zappi's in there and throw screens every 3 plays. So I would give that offense a C, considering that the offensive line would probably not be very good. If Mac Jones was a B- quarterback, and he's not right now, just straight up, he's a D+ quarterback right now, and that's probably being modest. If Mac Jones was a B- quarterback and you didn't have to pick a quarterback in the first round, this is what the offense could look like. Mac Jones at quarterback, Ramondre Stevenson at running back, Marvin Harrison Jr., Maserati Marvin, who I promise you is going to become the darling of fantasy football over the next 3 or 4 years or so. A multiple contract type wide receiver, just immediate number one, immediate top 20 weapon in the entire league. Wide receiver 2, I put Kendrick Bourne instead of paying T. Higgins. And this is optimistic with Kendrick Bourne coming off an injury. Demario Douglas as wide receiver 3, Hunter Henry under the same contract. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Left tackle, instead of a 3rd or 4th round pick, is Trent Brown once again. Now, he'd be a bridge, but he's still Trent Brown. Left guard, City So, meaning the guy that's played pretty decent at right guard is now playing left guard. David Andrews at center. Mike Onwenu. So you kept both Brown and Onwenu, and Onwenu goes back to his natural position at right guard, and right tackle a 2nd round pick. That sounds like an offensive line that might be able to keep a guy upright. And you have 3 difference maker wide receivers, plus Hunter Henry to be the security blanket. That sounds like a B- operation. The alternative, if you wanted to get really crazy, Mac Jones at quarterback, Ramondre Stevenson, still pay T. Higgins, still bring back Kendrick Bourne, still have Demario Douglas, but draft Brock Bowers instead of the wide receiver and have the same offensive line as the previous one that I mentioned. So you get the B to B- offensive line, plus the second coming of Rob Gronkowski and T. Higgins and Demario Douglas on offense, along with Ramondre Stevenson. This is what this offense could have been next year. But because of all the malpractice at drafting based off of defensive coordinators who are running the offense, and screwing up an premium asset and a 1st round quarterback in Mac Jones, now Drake May is going to be running for his life while trying to potentially throw up a pipe dream of T. Higgins and Xavier Worthy being on the team next year.
I mean, I don't know. Bill Belichick could still draft like a defensive end in the 1st round.
I would lose.
There's the 2nd pick in the draft.
I would lose all my brain cells if we drafted anything other than offense in the first day. Now, the only argument that I have against that is if there's a difference maker free safety that they like and they trade down to get him. I mean, I don't love it, but I wouldn't be as averse to that, because that would solidify our defense with everybody coming back into a position where we would be very, very tough to move the ball against. But all that to say, man, we messed this up, and it may have cost New England not a Super Bowl in the next 2 or 3 years, but consistent playoff contention for the next 2 or 3 years, most likely. So I will get off my soapbox now. I appreciate you listening. Instead of doing dogs of the week like we usually do, because we had so many games and it's so difficult to pick multiple dogs of the week and that sort of thing. So what we're going to do instead is make up for some lost time on meme of the week.
Meme! Approved!
And the way we're going to do that is each of us have found a meme of some sort. Some of us have maybe referenced a meme or two on the way here, but we're going to talk about a couple memes that kind of tickled our fancy, made our funny bone get that feeling that it does. I don't know. It just made us feel good. And then we laughed, like I laughed when we missed the game tying field goal. I mean, a cackle to say. So we'll start with the master himself, Mr. Hound. Do you have, who are you bringing to the table as far as a meme of the week this week?
Yeah, it really came down to two, but I decided to go with the one because the other one's years old. So the meme of the week happened during the Jets and Dolphins game that happened on the first Black Friday game ever.
Nice.
And boy, was it a great game. But the game wasn't great because of what happened on the field, but what happened off the field with Mike McDaniels when he was getting heckled by Jets fans and about it being cold because he was standing by a heater and using the heater, and they're making fun of him because he's a Miami boy. And he has a great response back to it.
I'm cool. Also winning.
Nice.
Yeah, McDaniels is awesome.
Heck yeah.
It's very short.
I can't hate. I want, as much as he's like Peyton Manning, bro. As much as I want to hate him, I just can't.
He's like if an NFL fan just became a head coach, Randy.
Pretty much.
So he just doesn't know what's really going on, but he's very funny.
Heck yeah.
But he does know what's going on, but
probably more than most.
Yeah,
probably more than most. LB, what do you have as the meme of the week?
Yeah, so my meme of the week will be from the Panthers-Titans game, but just for some context, before you overlay it, the first one came when the game was 7-3 Titans in the second quarter, and there's a picture of Bryce Young laying flat on the ground. He looks dead. And to be quite honest, he probably is dead emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and borderline physically, because this offensive line is going to literally get him killed. It's atrocious. But when I saw this, I laughed my tail off because it was the epitome of what the dumpster fire offensive line, offense, organization that is the Carolina Panthers. Then the second one is also a screenshot. And I took the screenshot of the right before halftime. Just for some context, the Titans were up 14-3. There was 14 seconds left. Well, actually, let me back this up even more because this will give it even more context and why this is so much of a meme to begin with, in my opinion. So, Panthers get the ball against the Titans, right? Late in the second quarter. Trying to run 2-minute drill. Panthers came to run a regular offense, so I don't know why the heck they would try to run a 2-minute drill to get points on the board instead of just kneeing the ball and ensuring the Titans don't get another possession, a chance to get points on the board. But the Panthers and their coaching staff, in their infinite wisdom, decided to do that and try to go to the ball, move the ball down the field. They took a whopping 20 seconds off the clock, gave the ball back to Tennessee. Tennessee then proceeded to march down the field. Resume where I left off, 14-3, 14 seconds in the second quarter. The Titans have the ball. We'll call it the 47-yard line. Just just outside of midfield. So they have to cross midfield and they'll be in Panthers territory. 14 seconds. They have no timeouts. Okay. This picture is a screenshot of our stud DN, Brian Burns, but they have him lined up at cornerback.
Oh my gosh.
He's lined up at corner, and on here, there's also our other defensive end, Marquise Haynes, who is in the rotation on the D-line, and he's playing the opposite corner. So we have Marquise Haynes at left corner and Brian Burns at right corner. 14 seconds. Guess what happens, fellas? Will Levis throws a dart for like 25 yards over the middle. They catch the ball, get down, catch the ball, clock it, kick the field goal from like 50 yards and get 3 more points before half. So then they end up going up 14-3.
Jeez.
So, well, excuse me. They did not make the field goal. They missed it. But my point was that they gave them the opportunity to do that, which shouldn't have happened.
Right.
And the screenshot is funny. Panthers fans should find that funny because they know those players. Obviously, I think most people know who Brian Burns is because he's a
stud.
Very, well-respected guy in the league. But Marquise Haynes, not as much. But the dude's like 6'6", 250, 260 playing cornerback.
Oh, gosh.
It's the dumbest thing ever. It just, for me, summed up how bad and how poorly this organization is situationally and then just as a whole.
Speaking of getting on track, my meme that I'm going to put up for contention for meme of the week is a wide receiver that I wish was traded to New England. There was significant talks amongst the media that he was coming to town, but alas, Sean Payton didn't want to get rid of him. It's our boy Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is part of now a 5-game winning streak for the Denver Broncos. And if you didn't realize, yes, the Denver Broncos are still a team. And yes, they still play every week. And yes, they are capable of winning games. And they have. And yes, Russell Wilson still plays in the NFL. But that's not what's the meme about this whole thing, and that the NFL has allowed the Broncos to go on a 5-game winning streak, though that is that is a little bit of a meme. What the meme to me was, I don't remember what the linebacker's name was, but it was 2 weeks ago. The Broncos were playing, I should probably have looked this up. Let me double check it. I think it was the Vikings. That makes sense because that would explain why I was ever watching the game. Yes, it was the Vikings game. So what happened was there was a forward pass. It was like a quick pass, right? So Russell Wilson's in the shotgun, makes a forward pass. Keep that in mind. Forward pass to Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy then runs 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. Okay, so now not only has there been a forward pass, there's now been advancement of the ball 5 yards down the field. And there are linebackers and safeties and corners closing in to make the tackle. And Jerry Jeudy does what anybody that has a Madden rating of over 90 would do, is pump fake the ball like he was going to throw it. 5 yards downfield after a forward pass has already been thrown, and after he's run the ball past the line of scrimmage on his own accord. And that's not even the meme that he did it. The meme is the linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings jumped, thought, oh my gosh, he's going to pass it. He's going to throw it over my head. He's going to dump it to the running back right in behind me. And I believe it was a third down, and they gave up the first down because the linebacker jumped. Although Josh Dobbs had every opportunity to win that game and decided not to. Because if he wanted to win, he would have.
He's playing 4D's chess here.
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
You just don't understand.
For sure. But my meme of the week goes to the Vikings linebacker that jumped at the possibility of Jerry Jeudy throwing the ball over his head after being thrown the ball already. Past the line of scrimmage, 5 yards down the field. So congratulations to our memes of the week.
Meme. Approved.
Memes of the week, congratulations.
You got a new sound.
And from that to cricket, because we've got to go into how badly New England and the Panthers are going to lose this weekend. So we are now, because we took a week off, we were 2 weeks ahead. Now we are predicting this Sunday's games. How exciting.
Yeah, we're relevant.
Yeah, for sure. And the whole point of me being ahead was for this exact reason. So you're welcome, fans, and you're welcome, dogs. So we'll start with Hound.
Great planning.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like it's like you put a host in a host chair instead of putting a defensive coordinator in a host chair. But
Facts.
so we got Chiefs at the Packers. Chiefs at good old Lambeau Field. The now relatively hot Packers.
Yeah.
What say you?
Relatively hot.
Yeah.
But I still feel good about the Chiefs. Again, if they actually throw to Kelsey and Rashee Rice instead of Watson and yes, I think their offense can do pretty well. So for that reason, and I believe this is a Sunday night game, which is crazy that this is a Sunday night game.
Yes.
I believe the Chiefs will win 27-17.
Yeah, I don't trust Jordan Love to overcome that Chiefs defense. That Chiefs defense has been we've been
pretty lights out.
Yeah, you guys have been under the radar, but you guys have been amazing. Been very good.
And that's without Nick Bolton, our best linebacker, being active for the last 5 weeks.
Jeez, imagine.
And he just came back to practice for the first time this week. We'll see if he can get back on the field soon.
Rich get richer.
Yeah.
Panthers at Bucks. I was actually in Tampa Bay the other day, and I did see a pirate ship, but I did not see any booty. So, so LB, let's hear about how booty the Panthers are going to be that week.
I respect that. That was a great setup. Self-lob for yourself. The Panthers lose 20-10.
Ooh.
You know, I was debating whether I was going to put 13 points, 20-13, and I really had it no, they're not scoring 13. That's a problem when you don't have confidence that your team is going to score 13 points in an NFL game.
Mm.
I don't think they can do it. I really don't. 20-10, that's my answer.
Can tell you're really excited about that too.
I'm gonna hit this one nail on the head right here. I'm calling it. I was one point away last week. I'm calling my shot right here. 20-10, Panthers L.
Man, I hope both of those touchdowns that the Bucs score will be to Mike Evans, because my fantasy team needs Mike Evans to carry. So loss, win for the Chiefs. Chargers at Patriots. So this actually is so funny that we posted the Chargers episode, and now one of our teams is playing it. And not only is it one of our teams, I would argue it's the worst of our teams. We won't know for sure because the Panthers don't play the Patriots this year. But I would take Bryce Young and Adam Thielen over Mac Jones. And I don't even know who's going to be playing receiver this week because DeMario got clotheslined and the guy got neither fined nor flagged. And I will never understand that. Player safety, everybody. But we need to make sure that if the Patriots and the Panthers did play this year, the NFL would have scheduled them for a Sunday night game. Most likely. Battle for the number one pick if that was the case.
How it always works.
Yes, sir. Now, Chargers at Patriots. The high-flying, illustrious Justin Herbert versus TBD at quarterback for the Patriots. Not TB12, TBD. It is rough. There's a part of me that thinks this defense is so bad that New England will find a way to accidentally score more than once. But the defense will not do enough to keep Justin Herbert contained. So I'm going to have them the Chargers winning 27-16. And bold prediction is that Demario Douglas, if he plays, he might not play, but if he plays, gets his first NFL touchdown.
Let's go.
Yes. So justice will be served. 27-16. Another crazy bold prediction is that the quarterback who starts the game will be the quarterback that finishes the game. So there you go. Couple quick bold predictions there. It's amazing that a bold prediction is that the starter actually finishes the game. That's an amazing place for your team to be.
Thank you for listening to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. Be sure to check out the Thinking Hound and to like, share, and subscribe.